Welcome back, everyone. Today we are looking at local politics and some recent news from the weekend, Saturday, March 29th and Sunday, March 30th, 2025, to be exact.
Sounds good.
If you want more content like this, be sure to check out the YouTube channel PalsFundamentals. All our sources for today's report are linked below. So let's dive in. First up, what's been going on in the world of young entrepreneurs?
Well, the winner of Ungt virki 2025, the Young Entrepreneurs Competition, has been announced. Petsit from Mianamaglasi took home the top prize.
Petsit.
Yeah, Petsit. It's a pretty neat idea, actually, a pet sitting system. It's designed to help people easily find reliable pet sitters. And it's got some useful features built in, like reviews and secure communication for pet owners and sitters.
So kind of like a platform that brings everything together.
Exactly. And the team behind Petsit Anita Dahl Ranavavrelens daughter Hayfield and Maria Vilsenda, they'll actually be representing the Faroe Islands at the Danish Entrepreneurship Championship, which is coming up on April 29th.
Oh, wow. So they're moving on to an even bigger stage. That's fantastic. What about the other winners? Right. So in second place, we had Reese's from Minamakumsdali. They came up with a really cool concept, colorful and fun trash cans designed specifically to encourage children to actually use them.
That's a great idea. Getting kids involved and keeping things tidy.
Yeah, definitely. The team behind Reese's is made up of Sari Hilmarsdottir Hansen, Helga Mikkelsen, Naomi Pola Alfdottir Jökladal, and Petra Nolsi. And then taking third place, we have Bila Torgi from Tekniska Skuli I Klaksvik. They developed an app for selling and sharing cars.
An app for car sharing, huh? That seems pretty timely given the growing interest in more sustainable transportation options. Who's on that team?
The team for Bila Torgi consists of Rasmus Hansen, Leroy Filbro, Alexander Harrison, and Marit Jonhard-Stodier.
It's really impressive to see these young entrepreneurs coming up with innovative solutions to all sorts of challenges.
Absolutely. It's a testament to their creativity and their engagement with the community.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about some recent developments on the international front. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade Bjarni Karlsson Peterson recently paid a visit to Shetland, along with representatives from some of the major Faroes businesses.
That's right. And the minister came back with some very positive impressions of Shetland. He was particularly struck by their large-scale industrial projects, their commitment to the green energy transition, and their active efforts to attract skilled labor to the island. He specifically mentioned the Saxavord spaceport on Ungt, which is quite a significant development.
A spaceport in Shetland. That's interesting. It sounds like they're really pushing forward with some ambitious projects.
They are indeed. And it wasn't just a one-way exchange of information either. Shetland also expressed a keen interest in learning from the Faroe Islands, particularly in terms of our development of both physical and digital infrastructure. They were especially interested in our undersea tunnels and our widespread internet coverage.
That makes sense. We've certainly made significant strides in those areas, and I can see how our experience could be valuable to Shetland as they pursue their own development goals.
Absolutely. The minister's experience taking a direct Atlantic Airways helicopter flight to Shetland also got him thinking about how we might improve inter-island connections here in the Faroes. And the folks in Shetland are actually planning a return visit specifically to learn more about our infrastructure and internet advancements.
It sounds like a very productive visit with potential for ongoing collaboration. Were there any other notable takeaways from the trip?
Well, there was a real emphasis on the historical ties between the islands. The minister mentioned Christian Playen's work back in the day, studying fishing practices in Shetland.
Oh, right, Ployen. He was a key figure in modernizing the Faroes fishing industry, wasn't he?
That's him. And they also talked about Dr. Jacobson's documentation of the Norn language, which was once spoken in both Shetland and the Faroes. It's fascinating to see how these historical connections are still relevant today as we explore new areas of cooperation.
Definitely. Speaking of historical connections, John Goodlad's book, The Salt Roads, also came up. It explores how Shetland actually served as a model for the Faroes fishing industry in many ways. It seems like these shared experiences and influences run deep.
They certainly do. It's a reminder that we're not just geographically close, but also linked by a rich history of cultural exchange.
Okay, so now for something a little different, let's talk about some exciting news in the world of research. Sjokoven and a group of Faroes partners have been awarded a pretty substantial grant from Horizon Europe.
Oh yeah, this is big news. Over 18 million DKK to be exact. And it's going towards several important research projects.
Wow, that's impressive. Tell me more about these projects. What are they focused on?
So one of the key projects is called MECAM. It's all about tackling the challenge of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and helping fisheries in the North Atlantic adapt to the impacts of climate change.
Climate change is obviously a huge concern globally and here in the Faroes as well. It's great to see researchers working to address this head on. Who else is involved in MECAM?
It's a really collaborative effort. There are partners from 9 different countries involved, including Vargin and Havstoven from the Faroe Islands, and Sjokoven will actually be leading this project.
That's fantastic. It sounds like a really significant role. What are the other projects?
Another one is OCCAM, which is all about promoting sustainable aquaculture practices. This project has participation from Fuglafjør and Avrik.
Sustainable aquaculture is crucial for ensuring the long-term health of our oceans. And what's the third project?
The third one is called Marine Guardian, and its focus is on reducing the environmental footprint of fishing activities and, of course, protecting marine ecosystems.
Protecting our oceans is something we all need to be concerned about. What's Sjokoven's role in these two projects?
They'll be handling the socio-economic analyses for both OCCAM and Marine Guardian, looking at the broader economic and social impacts of these initiatives.
That's an important perspective to bring to these research projects, and it's worth noting that getting funding from Horizon Europe is no easy feat. It's a highly competitive program.
Absolutely. The fact that all 3 of Sjokoven's applications were successful speaks volumes about the quality and relevance of their research proposals.
Yeah.
It's a huge win for them and for the Faroe Islands as a whole.
It really highlights the value of Faroes' participation in these international research initiatives. It's all about knowledge creation, fostering innovation, and building those global networks. Okay, let's move on to some employment figures. Landsbanken has released some data on the ratio of public to private sector employees, and it looks like things have remained fairly stable over the past decade.
That's right. Both in November 2014 and November 2024, the split was pretty much the same, 39% working in the public sector and 61% in the private sector.
That's interesting. So despite all the changes and developments we've seen over the past 10 years, that balance between public and private sector employment has remained quite consistent.
Exactly. And according to Statistics Faroe Islands, the average annual growth in employees in both sectors has been hovering around 2% for the last decade. However, if we look back to the 5 years before the COVID-19 pandemic, the growth in private sector employment was actually significantly higher.
That makes sense. COVID obviously had a major impact on economies around the world, and it's likely that we're still seeing some of the after effects of that disruption in the labor market. Anything else stand out in the employment figures?
Well, there was an interesting trend between 2023 and 2024. Private sector employment actually saw a decrease, while public sector employment in health and social services increased.
An increase in healthcare and social services jobs, that's not entirely surprising given the growing demands on those sectors.
No, not at all. And we also saw a decrease in employment in the manufacturing sector, specifically in other food production. It will be interesting to see how these trends evolve in the coming years.
Agreed. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Oh, and before we move on, I just wanted to quickly mention that there's been a really strong public response to the recent vaccination efforts. It's encouraging to see people taking steps to protect themselves and the more vulnerable members of our community.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That's good news.
Now, switching gears again, let's talk about economic sentiment for a bit. A recent poll revealed that a majority of people in the Faroe Islands are actually feeling a bit uneasy about the economic outlook. 53%, to be exact, expressed concern about a potential financial crisis happening within the next 5 years. And of those, 15% said they were very worried.
That's a significant portion of the population. Do we know if those concerns are spread evenly across the islands, or are there regional variations?
Well, interestingly, the poll showed that people in Eysturoy were generally less worried than those in other areas. And when it comes to age groups, it was the 18 to 29-year-olds who expressed the highest level of concern. 67% of them said they were worried about a financial crisis.
That's understandable. Younger generations often bear the brunt of economic downturns. There's just starting their careers, buying homes, starting families.
Yeah.
It's a time when financial stability is particularly important.
Absolutely. And just to provide some context, only 17% of people said they were worried about pandemic. So it seems like economic concerns are really top of mind for many at the moment.
Right. It suggests that people are perhaps feeling a bit more vulnerable on the economic front than when it comes to health threats. Were there any other interesting findings from the poll?
Yeah, there were some variations based on gender, age, region, and even political affiliation. For instance, voters for Fuglafjørður tended to be less worried about a financial crisis than supporters of other parties. It's a reminder that these economic concerns are often filtered through people's individual circumstances and perspectives.
Absolutely. These kinds of polls provide a valuable snapshot of public sentiment, but it's always important to dig deeper and understand the nuances behind those numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to some company news. Mest has just released their financial results for 2024, and they're reporting a net turnover of 557.5 million DKK.
That's a pretty hefty figure. And what about their profits?
They posted a profit of 4.9 million DKK after tax. It's worth noting, though, that they did experience some quite significant fluctuations in activity throughout the year, which is not uncommon in their line of work.
Right. MES is involved in a lot of different projects, especially in shipbuilding and repair, right?
Exactly. And they have a pretty large workforce as well, with 567 employees, including 75 apprentices.
That's a substantial number of people contributing to the company's success. So overall, it sounds like MS is in a fairly healthy financial position.
They are indeed. Their equity stands at 150.1 million DKK, and they have a solidity ratio of over 52%. So that's a positive sign. And looking ahead to 2025, they're anticipating a year of high activity with several interesting projects in the pipeline.
I'm curious to hear more about these projects. What are some of the highlights that Mest is working on?
Well, one of their major projects is the construction of a brand new 150-meter dry dock in Skalla. This is a big undertaking, and it's expected to be completed in October 2026.
A new dry dock. That sounds like it will be a valuable asset for the Faroes shipping industry. What else are they working on?
They're also building a new freezer trawler for Varian. The hull is expected to arrive in November of this year, and the trawler should be fully completed and ready to set sail by summer 2026.
So a lot of activity in the shipbuilding sector. What about other areas? Are they involved in anything beyond shipbuilding?
Oh, absolutely. Mest has been seeing a significant increase in activity in the aquaculture sector as well. They've been working on the conversion of service vessels for Bakkafrost, and they've undertaken a really comprehensive conversion of a roe plant into a smolt facility in Svinøy.
Aquaculture is such a vital part of the Faroes economy. It's good to see companies like Mest adapting and expanding their services to meet the needs of this growing industry.
And one more thing worth mentioning, Mest has just released its first ever sustainability report, which has been prepared in accordance with European standards. It demonstrates their commitment to operating in a more environmentally and socially responsible way.
That's great to hear. Sustainability is becoming increasingly important across all sectors. Speaking of development, let's talk about what's been happening at Fuglafjør Harbor. There's been a lot of construction activity going on there lately.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on at Fuglafjør. Arcticon has been busy with some pretty major tunnel construction for both Havsbrún and Bergfrost.
Tunnels! That sounds like a big project. What are the tunnels for?
Well, Havsbrún is actually getting 3 new tunnels, in addition to the 2 they already have.
Yeah.
And Bergfrost is getting 2 new tunnels, one for freezing and one for dry storage, which will be added to their existing 5. So yeah, it's quite a significant expansion of their facilities.
It definitely sounds like it. And I've heard that they're using the rock excavated from the tunnel construction for land reclamation in front of Havsbrún's feed storage. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. They're basically creating more usable land area at the harbor. And on that newly reclaimed land, the plan is to build 3 brand new quayside berths. Havsbrún is also planning to build a storage facility on that site.
Wow, so a lot of expansion happening at Fuglafjør Harbor. It sounds like they're really gearing up for increased activity. Do we know anything about the size of the planned area?
It will extend about 100 meters from the existing quay, and then the outer quay edge will be another 100 meters. So it's a pretty substantial increase in the harbor's capacity.
And what about Rockenspuff? I understand they've been working on a new deep water quay as well.
Yes, they have. They're constructing an 80-meter deep water quay, which will run from the Plagos Bridge towards Vonen's new plant. It's been a challenging project with some difficult conditions, but they're making good progress, and it's expected to be finished later this spring.
It sounds like Fuglafjør Harbor is going to be a very busy and bustling place once all these projects are completed. Okay, let's move on to the fishing industry. Do we have any updates on what's been happening out on the water?
As of yesterday, both of the fresh fish longliners were at harbor, but one of them is expected to head back out sometime this week.
Okay, and what about the freezer longliners? Where are they fishing these days?
The freezer longliners are a bit more spread out. 2 of them are currently fishing near Iceland. 3 are either near or on their way to East Greenland. and the remaining 2 are fishing closer to the Faroe Islands.
And what are they targeting? What kind of catches are they bringing in?
They're mainly fishing for cod, haddock, lakeling, and tusk. Those seem to be the main species they're focusing on at the moment.
What about the small boat fishermen? Are they having any luck?
Well, conditions haven't been ideal for the small boats lately. The strong currents and the generally unstable weather have been making things a bit tricky for them, so I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of small boat fishing activity in the immediate future.
That makes sense. Safety always comes first, and it's not worth taking unnecessary risks in those kinds of conditions. What about the trawlers? What's the latest there?
As of yesterday, all the fresh fish trawlers were in harbor, but they'll probably be heading back out this week when conditions improve. And there's currently 1 freezer trawler out there fishing for Greenland halibut.
And what about the pair trawlers? How are they doing?
Most of the pair trawlers are out there fishing, but their success has been a bit mixed. They've been catching some whitefish, particularly haddock and whiting. Several pairs are actually expected to land their catches sometime this week.
Okay. And any news on the larger trawlers? The ones that fish further afield?
Yeah, there are 4 trawlers operating north of the islands right now. They're anticipated to land their catches early next week. They've got a pretty good haul, mostly cod and haddock, with a bit of saithe and flatfish mixed in.
Sounds like a decent mix. And what about the gill netters? What are they targeting?
We have 3 gill netters currently out fishing for Greenland halibut and 1 that's targeting monkfish. They've all reported usable catches so far, and they're all expected to land their catches this week.
That's good news for the fishing industry. It's good to hear that the catches have been decent despite some of the challenges they've been facing. So final topic for today, let's talk about foreign workers. Landsbanken has released some data on the arrival of foreign workers, and it looks like there's been a pretty significant decline.
Yeah, that's right. The numbers have been dropping quite noticeably. The highest growth in foreign labor actually occurred back in 2022 when we saw an increase of 24%.
Yeah.
But then in 2023, the growth rate slowed down to 10%, and in 2024, it was only 2%. So it's a pretty clear downward trend.
That's quite a shift. What do we know about the overall proportion of foreign workers in the Faroes economy?
Well, back in 2009, foreign workers only made up about 3% of the total workforce. But that number has been steadily rising, and in 2024, it reached 8%, which translates to roughly 2,300 people.
That's a pretty substantial increase over the past 15 years. Are there any particular sectors that rely heavily on foreign labor?
Yes, definitely. The sectors with the highest percentages of foreign workers are manufacturing, particularly in fish processing, construction, and accommodation and food services.
Okay, let's wrap things up with a quick weather update. It's Sunday, March 30th, 2025, 10:05 UTC. And we're going to take a look at the weather situation over the past 24 to 48 hours and give you the latest forecast.
All right. So we've had a low-pressure system over southern Scandinavia, which is moving east. That brought us some northerly winds earlier today.
And I noticed it's been pretty breezy this morning. What else is going on weather-wise?
Well, there's a high-pressure ridge from the Iceland Sea, which is also moving east. And that's brought some light and variable winds over the Faroes this morning as well.
Yeah.
But the high pressure west of Biscay is going to move northeast over the British Isles today and then over the North Sea late on Monday. And that's going to bring a mild westerly wind towards the Faroes.
Okay, so we've got a bit of a mixed bag of weather systems at play. Anything else we need to be aware of?
Yes. There's a low-pressure system in the northern Atlantic, which is moving northeast towards Iceland. The fronts associated with that system are going to bring southerly winds and rain to the Faroes later tonight.
So things are going to get a bit wetter and windier later on. When can we expect that low-pressure system to move on?
It should move into the Irminger Sea on Monday, and the fronts might only reach the southern parts of the Faroes on Monday evening. Then on Tuesday, that low pressure in the Irminger Sea will start to weaken. And a weak high pressure is going to build south of Iceland. That's going to bring a northerly airflow to the Faroes. We might also see a weak cold front with showers on Wednesday.
So some potential showers midweek. What about the rest of the week?
There's a possibility of a high-pressure ridge extending from Iceland to the North Sea on Thursday. And that should bring some light and variable winds, so things might settle down a bit towards the end of the week.
Fingers crossed. So let's get to the specific forecast. What can we expect for the rest of today and tomorrow?
From now until Monday morning, we're looking at a light to fresh northerly breeze, which will become southerly later today. Those southerly winds are going to increase to fresh to strong by this evening, and we're expecting overcast skies and rain. Temperatures will start between 1 and 5 degrees Celsius, but they'll warm up to between 2 and 8 degrees by the evening.
So
And don't forget, Mest reported a profit, and has several major projects in the works. Fuglafjør Harbor is undergoing some significant expansion, and fishing activity is continuing with some mixed success depending on the type of fishing.
Oh, and arrivals of foreign workers have decreased. And as for the weather, it's going to be pretty unsettled with wind and rain for the next couple of days.
This news report has provided you with a concise overview of what's been happening locally and a glimpse of the immediate weather outlook.
Thanks for joining us. And as you go about your week, take a moment to consider how all these various developments connect from local businesses to economic anxieties to environmental factors. It's all part of the bigger picture here in the Faroe Islands.